think it was Jim.
No, hold on. Scroll down. He's in this article, isn't he?
Is he?
Sure? I mean, that's him. I'm trying to think what his name is.
Baird.
No. His name was Peter.
Yeah, Peter. That was really good. Okay, hi back. Welcome back, YouTube land. I know we haven't posted in a while. And welcome back, listeners. I know we haven't posted in a while. It's been a busy summer already. Okay. Alrighty.
Can you hear everybody?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I can hear you both.
Okay, we're all good. Alright, here we go. Hey, GalaxyCast fans! Welcome to this episode of the GalaxyCast. I have with me 3 people in the studio tonight. I have with me Eric the Artist.
Hello, Yukio.
I have with me Gary the Stud. And I am Bob Crispin, your host, which for some reason I don't have an arm right now. And we have 2 things we're going to talk with you tonight. And this is going to make it easy because we're going to talk about Deadpool 2 because all 3 of us have gone and seen it. And we're going to talk about Star Wars: A Solo Story, which only 3 of us have seen it. Which is all 3 of us.
Yes.
So we're going to start the first half.
Are you talking about their in general ticket sales?
Yeah, there you go. Only 3 people actually went to that. We are the only people that went.
That's all that matters.
So we're going to talk to the first half about Deadpool 2, and then the second half of tonight we will talk about the Han Solo Star Wars story after our commercial break. So this will be a fun little round table about movies. So, by the way, if you haven't seen any of these movies, spoiler. Just putting it out there because spoiler. Can I say it or not? Spoiler. So if you haven't gone to see the movie, go see the movie first, and then come back and then listen to us because we're awesome that way.
And then tell us the shatter points of it.
Because spoiler. Okay, so let's start off with Deadpool 2. And this movie came out, about a month ago now, as we're recording this podcast, and it
like 2 months ago.
Is it 2 months? It's pretty close to 2 months.
It's been a while.
I don't remember numbers.
Nothing if not timely and topical.
Hey, we're geeks, we're busy. How did the movie do numbers-wise? I don't remember off the top of my head. It did better than the first one, right?
Apparently it did really well.
Right. And so, I mean, as far as
one was a huge hit.
Money coming in, I mean, it was a big deal. Now,
yeah, they have absolutely no concerns about money with this movie.
Let's deal with the monkey in the room first before we start talking about Deadpool really quick. Yeah, we gotta get rid of it. Come here. Here, boy.
I have a banana for you.
Is it the evil monkey?
All right, so the monkey in the room. It's official. Disney has bought the Fox properties.
Yes.
It is now official. So, I don't know when it officially starts. That would be interesting to know.
I'm guaranteeing you our first teaser for it is at the end of Avengers 4.
You definitely think it's going to be there for sure now?
It's what everyone expected at the end of Infinity War. And it makes sense to me now they couldn't. A, that it wasn't entirely done.
Right.
B, it's only the halfway point of what is really a long movie.
Right.
So it seems to me like, hey, we're going to announce stuff like that. That's the time to do it.
Sure. I mean, like you said, we've hinted at it a ton of times. Fantastic Four, anybody could come in there. X-Men, Galactus, anybody could come in there. Doctor Doom, who knows?
And now that it's been bought, I wonder seriously if they're going to Hugh Jackman and they're saying, dude, even though you retired, but you could get that one last chance and you could fight Captain America or something.
Well, that's why I bring this up, because now you've got 2 Deadpool movies that have knocked it out of the park. If you're Disney, do you go to Ryan Reynolds and go, please, we need you for at least 3 to 4 more movies? I mean, like, do you really, like...
I'm sure those contracts are being tossed around right now.
And can you imagine this? Because this is where I was like, my mind is kind of a little, right? Like, Ryan Reynolds joked around about wanting to be an X-Men. He's talked about wanting to be an Avenger. And wasn't there, thinking back, he made some sort of Twitter post congratulating them on Infinity War, right?
Yeah.
Like, what
he shared his rejection letter for Avengers.
So what if suddenly now he's part of that? You know what I mean? Like, I was kind of like, this could play out in a really funny way between Ryan Reynolds and the rest of the cast, and how this could all totally like play out.
Well, here's the thing with the direction they took with like Ragnarok and the Ant-Man movies and stuff. They've shown how much humor they're willing to put into their films. They're showing how much humor they're willing to put in a major property like Thor. They went for it. Sure. And it was the biggest Thor movie of all of them. Yep. The most successful, and I know some people who hated it, but for the most part, really enjoyed by the public. Without ruining the character, because the character came right back in Avengers and was kick butt, powerful.
Probably the most powerful character there. Yeah.
He was, and it didn't. The story flowed.
Right.
So, if all that can be done, there's real, and you can have talking trees and talking raccoons and all that, and you have the Winter Soldier picking up Rocket and doing a spin move, shooting a gun with one hand, and Rocket shooting in the other hand, and it works. They can make these scenes work. There is no reason they can't get Deadpool to work with this universe.
I absolutely agree.
They could do it. It might have to, when he's combined with others, they might have to take away the fourth wall rule.
Or they might have to get Ryan to tame down a little bit, like all the crazy stuff he's doing.
And I think when he does his solo outing, they can go further, and when he's joined in, you just kind of don't do that whole fourth wall thing. You just let him be a crazy regenerative assassin, and he works. He'll totally work with the universe. So I don't see any reason why they couldn't. I mean, I'll guarantee you those discussions are happening.
I'm sure they are. So let's talk about the movie, because there's a lot going on here in this movie, and I think it was probably the best mutant movie I've seen in a while. I mean, quite honestly, probably one of the better ones.
It was quite full.
So let's talk about some of the cameos in this movie, because there were a lot of them. I mean, there were a ton of cameos of characters that definitely worked within the Marvel Universe. I mean, first off, what did you guys think of introducing all the young X-Men that we've seen in all the movies, in the latest Incantation, having them at the X-Mansion, and just kind of walking in on them and walking out of it?
They like closed the door and hit on him because they didn't want to talk to him.
Right
when he said the line, "We can't get any of the others," and there's the entire cast.
Right, the entire cast.
I thought that was kind of smart and funny to do.
What did you guys think about him driving around on Professor X's wheelchair? There were a lot of people that hated that. I thought it was great. I mean,
why would they hate it?
Well, because they thought it was disrespectful to Professor Xavier, and Charles would never let that happen to his wheelchair. And I was kind of like, I don't think he had a choice in that, number one.
He probably has more than one.
I'm sure he does, right? And part of me was just like, that's the whole point of Deadpool. He's disrespectful to everybody, including Charles Xavier. I loved it. I thought it was great. A lot of people just thought it was just a little too, too over the top.
No, I didn't know that at all.
But I thought that was
totally within the character.
Right, I mean, totally in the realm of what you would totally expect from Deadpool.
Especially because, he just had his love of his life murdered.
Right.
He's not going to give a care about, he's not going to be like, oh, am I being disrespectful to you? He wasn't thinking about that at all.
What did you guys think about how they handled Marina Baccarin's death here, and the fact that she's, in that afterworld life kind of thing, and there was kind of that weird bubbly universe?
It was an interesting idea to actually, is he? It was interesting. I didn't know quite how to take it. I'm like, okay, he's seeing the afterlife.
Right.
But in the end, I just went with it because I felt like it worked with flow for his motivations, and I kind of liked the way they visually did it. And you were never 100% sure.
Is she dead? Is she alive?
Is he seeing her for real, or is he just in some sort of state near death and he's just, hallucinating? You never quite knew. I mean, they heavily leaned towards he was really seeing her in the afterlife. That's what they heavily kind of hinted towards.
Yeah, because he was in that state of being nearly dead.
Right.
So he's going on to the other side, she keeps pushing him back.
Right.
Somebody called it a fifth wall break, which I thought was an interesting way to look at it, the fifth wall of death. And he was able to break the fifth wall of death now, so he could go beyond the grave and talk and then come back. And I was kind of like, I never thought of it in that regard, and it is kind of a fifth wall break in that regard. I liked it only because you always wonder, at times you wonder what is his motivation, and to see it now, like almost bluntly in front of you, how do you do that in a situation like this where it's not a comic book cell and he can't be thinking that, you know what I mean? So I thought to visually show that, I thought that was kind of a cool way to go about it. But what do you guys think about at the end where we can undo it now? So it's all like undone, right?
It was hilarious because they basically said, oh, by the way, we're just going to, even though the movie never set up these rules, you can do whatever the heck you want.
Right. I mean, like, part of me is sitting here going, well, then the whole movie never happened. Like, we walked out and I said it to my kids, they're like, wait, what? No. I'm like, yeah, he just undid the whole movie, and they all went, oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm like, so the movie happened, but it didn't.
So where's Cable? So where's Cable? Is Cable, if they do a sequel, are they going to...
Somewhere in a time stream, somewhere.
Here's the problem. They're going to ignore that teaser, that little joke at the end. If the movie continues, she may be alive, but they're going to basically act like all the events of this movie still happened.
Oh, I'm sure they will,
They won't do that little bit of, he undid the whole movie.
Yeah, but you get what I'm saying, right? Like, you could sit there and go, well, the whole movie
logically, yes.
It never physically actually happened. It happened in a different time stream somewhere else. I just thought that was kind of an interesting way to come out of it.
Well, you can still think that most of the movie would have happened, because the fact that he saved her didn't stop the kid from going nuts with his flame.
I guess that's true.
Those events may still have happened,
but in a different way.
And he may have still gone and been involved somehow, but it's, I don't know. Time travel's messy.
It is, and it got messy in this movie too. I mean, there's no doubt about it. So let's keep talking about characters here. What about, we had Colossus come back, which, Gary, I know you were excited about.
Yep.
What do you think of how they played Colossus out in this movie?
Again, one of the best Colossus.
I gotta agree. The guy who's doing Colossus, I really hope Disney hangs on to him for a while.
And even Juggernaut was decent looking.
Thank you. I was gonna get back to Juggernaut.
He was a little weird. I felt like his lower half was a little too small. Like, he was really tiny-waisted and stuff.
But if you look back at the comics, the original, way back in the 80s when they were drawing Juggernaut, right? Not now.
Right.
He actually was drawn that way.
I'll have to look.
If you look, he's got this really...
His helmet was a little weird. It looked like it was all bent metal instead of being his typical helmet.
But was there a time where that was Juggernaut's helmet before he got the one where he was, trying to keep Charles out of his head? I thought originally his original helmet was just like a bent piece of metal he put on his head, just to protect his skull so he could hit things. At least maybe I'm wrong.
I think it's always been the mystical helmet that he's always had.
Okay.
And then
he looked like Bulldozer a little bit.
I also felt like they powered him down quite a bit. Yeah. But they had to for this universe. They brought Juggernaut down.
Well, yeah, I think they could use it later to power him up a little bit more later to kind of soup him up if they wanted to. Which I was going to bring Juggernaut up, so thank you for beating me to that one. But I actually liked the Juggernaut version they introduced here. I hope they explore him a little bit more. Not that what they did is bad. They just want him to explore the character a little bit more.
He was okay.
What about Negasonic Teenage Warhead on this one? What did you guys think of her continuation?
I still liked her.
Yeah, I mean, I think she was a little underused. I would like to have seen a bit more of her. I felt like she was fine, and they brought her in at the end, and they did, but she only got to do one thing.
I'm kind of hoping in the next X-Men movie they bring her in, you know what I mean, more than they've ever brought her in at this point.
I would have liked to have seen her go off against Juggernaut too.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's what I was kind of hoping.
We never saw that in this movie, and I wanted to see it, and it just never quite happened. And having Colossus and Juggernaut go at each other, okay, but having her go at Juggernaut would have been really cool, like a moment I was waiting for. How about Cable? What do you guys think of Cable in this movie? Garrick, I know you had misgivings about Cable going in.
He was better than I expected. Okay. He worked okay. Brolin was fine as the role. I mean, he'd obviously gotten in killer shape for the role.
Absolutely.
I still didn't like his outfit.
Yeah.
I still felt the whole T-shirt thing he needed more futuristic clothes, in my opinion. He looked a little too much like, he had a torn cape, a T-shirt, and then he had the metal arm, the Cybertronics, and all that, but I felt like everything he had should have been a bit more futuristic. I liked the gun that either flew him through psionic reasons or through magnetic reasons, like it would come back and lock onto his outfit. For the most part, I liked him.
Okay.
And I thought that Brolin was pretty good in the role. I liked the way they approached him, and that you thought he could be a bad guy and everything, and then he just shows up in the apartment.
Right.
And he's like, look, I got a reason I'm doing all this. And he kind of explained it out, and so it was like, but he didn't become all buddy-buddy with Wade. I like that he would still, when they were driving in the car, he said, you're just like a freak dressed in a sex bondage outfit and stuff. And, he still didn't like him. And then at the very end, he rethought things a bit when he saw his sense of honor show through and everything. And it was a good progression for the character. So overall, I liked him. How they addressed him in the movie, though, viewing the movie, like I was there with my wife, who doesn't know the comics, viewing the movie from an outside point of view, it seems like it comes out of left field that for absolutely no reason someone comes flying back from the future. Right. It's like, whoa, what? There's no real setup for that. There's no real
reason to it at all.
Yeah, there's no real pre-established thing in the universe for this. They really heavily leaned on the fact that, people know who Cable is, so we can tell a bit of him coming back, and it's just fine that it's happened. It's like that. The story is that someone from the future just came back all of a sudden and happens to be going after the guy that Deadpool's trying to protect, and it just seemed very, very convenient and put together very quickly. I wish that had been done differently. I don't know what the solution would have been, because I know they didn't have a lot of time to tell it, but I don't know, it just seemed like it's like Deadpool met the kid character before we even met Cable, and then all of a sudden, someone from the future is after that kid too. I almost would have preferred from the get-go. The movie opened with Cable after the kid.
Right.
The kid escaped, and then it's like, it's not that Deadpool is already with the kid, and then so is this guy coming from the future. It's that the whole story is about the guy after the kid, and Deadpool gets involved. That alone would have helped me a bit.
You know what made it confusing for me, and I could understand this from my wife's point of view. She assumed Cable's a bad guy from the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
And they portray him as such.
Yes.
And I'm sitting there the whole time, myself confused, going, but wait a minute, we all know Cable's not a bad guy. He's an X-Men from the future. Like, we all know that's not supposed to be the case. So I kept sitting there going, okay, when are they going to explain this?
Yeah.
When are they going to explain this? When are they going to explain this? And so for like half the movie, you're kind of sitting there going, what is going on? Like, what's really going on?
Well,
It seems slightly confusing, you know?
That's part of the problem I got with the Deadpool movies, period, is Deadpool is actually the bad guy.
Right, like all by himself, he kind of is.
And they never...
He's his own worst enemy.
They never addressed that.
Right. He's the worst enemy of most people around him.
Right. Like he causes so many problems himself. He is the problem. And you're right, Gary. It's kind of the weird thing that I don't think a lot of people understand is Deadpool's his own problem. And they don't get to that well. You know what I mean? Like they don't really explain that well. They don't do it well. And it's like they're afraid to paint Ryan Reynolds in that regard. I don't think Ryan Reynolds is afraid of that. That's the really weird thing. I bet if you were to ask him, he'd be like, I'd be cool with that. If he made me a bad guy, I'd be cool with that. You know, like, but it didn't work. I mean, at least as far as that, it took me a while to figure out who the bad guy was. I thought it was Cable for a little bit. I'm going, is it? You know, like, did I miss something? You know, like, is there a version of Deadpool that I missed where Cable is the bad guy? And then the kid kind of became the bad guy.
Right. And then
it was like,
people who ran the house
people running the house are the bad guy.
But you kind of knew they were bad guys from the beginning.
Right.
It got very clear very early on they were mistreating the kids, but then they kind of got ignored for a long time.
Right.
So the structure of this movie was very strange. It's not typical structure.
No.
And in some regards, I like that. I mean, let's face it. You always say, I don't want to see the same old, change it up.
Right.
But it made this one very, like I said, jumping around. I would have liked if they had streamlined it, made Cable the main story instead of coming in as late. I mean, I was surprised how late he showed up in the movie.
Yeah, I did.
I was like, oh, okay, he's coming from the future. He's not already. It would have been better if he was like already there.
Right.
I would like to have not seen the future segment, seen the guy there. After the kid, Deadpool's like, well, I gotta protect the kid, and then eventually he explains who he is, and
Right,
the time
flashback at then.
and then explain the time travel thing. Them showing it from the beginning seemed like, whoa, it was just very odd way of doing it.
And it took me a little bit to put together that the guy in the future that goes after Cable's kid is the kid with the fist. I did not put that together at first. It took me a little bit
I think they were
to figure that out.
I think that's what they were trying to surprise you with too, a little bit, when he finally says what happens to the kid in the future. But again, it just because of the way they did it, it bounced around a lot.
And that was the weird thing about the movie too. They picked some X-Men characters that were a little out of left field. Well, to be honest with you.
Before you go on that one, though, because we're still talking about the bad guys.
Yeah, go ahead.
The two named bad guys that they did have in there, Black Tom Cassidy was...
He was a joke.
Yeah. And then you got the Juggernaut.
Yeah.
And all he was doing was protecting the kid, just like Wade was trying to protect the kid.
And I didn't see Juggernaut as a bad guy here. That's the really weird thing. Like, he doesn't come across as a bad guy. And you're right, Black Tom Cassidy just didn't seem to fit into what was going on here. It just didn't.
I think if I read somewhere there was supposed to be more with him. Something was planned with Black Tom Cassidy, and when it didn't work out,
a lot of it hit the cutting room
they
floor.
went to the joke room and they said, well, we'll use this instead. It's like, I think there was more that was supposed to happen there. It was in one of these videos that you see on YouTube where they talk about...
It's kind of a shame because it could have been something huge.
Well, Black Tom Cassidy and is like Juggernaut's only friend.
Right.
I mean, they've always been kind of paired together.
Right.
And stuff.
And then you got to tie in with the X-Men movies, too, because of Banshee.
Right.
Because
they're related, right? Yeah.
Uncle and nephew, I think.
I believe that's right.
Or father, son, I can't remember.
Oh, and okay, so let me cover that first before I get into my weird and mutants. What about the missed opportunities in this movie? Like, I think there were several missed opportunities. Like, I'm sitting here going, where was Bishop? Where was Forge? Like, you had some...
Well, Bishop was... No, what was Terry Crews's character?
I don't remember his name.
I thought he was Bishop.
No, he wasn't.
No.
Not Bishop. He was,
Hang on.
Crap, I can't remember.
I can tell you.
Okay.
Through the power of the internet.
And here's where the edit will come in later.
Yeah, later on.
Oh, wait, I'm on.
Terry Crews played a kind of an obscure character, which is one of the ones I wanted to talk about later.
So here's the cast.
No.
Okay.
Let's see here.
I think he's even a little farther down.
How is he so far down?
I don't know. I don't remember there being that many people in the movie. Okay, you're getting closer. Keep going. Terry Crews was Bedlam.
Bedlam. Yeah. So Terry Crews played Bedlam.
Yes.
Which is an obscure character, which we'll talk about some of the obscure characters in a minute. But, like, we missed some huge opportunities here. I mean, like, bringing Cable in, cool. Bringing Forge in, a little better. Bringing Bishop in, wow. I mean, like, you could have surprised me with Bishop. I don't know how you guys felt about that, but it just kind of felt like that was a missed moment.
I think this was on purpose because of the joke they pulled, where they filmed the sequences where you thought there was a bunch of X-Force action that was going to happen in this movie.
That never came.
You know, you see Bedlam punching people, you see people doing moves, you know, and stuff. The movie comes, and the joke is they all die before they even get to their first mission. Spoiler alert, every single one of them dies before they get to their
What did you guys think of that, though? I mean, like...
When it happened, I was like, what?
Wait, like, when that happened?
About 3 minutes later, I was like, that was great. Yeah. They just totally faked us out, and they killed all these people. That was great.
Especially Vanisher.
Vanisher.
Vanisher, you there?
You there?
You just see a parachute.
Yeah.
And you saw who played Vanisher.
It was Brad Pitt.
Yeah, they got him in for a brief role. So that's, to me, that was actually really funny, and I like that. That's a very Deadpoolish thing to do. Okay. And I think the reason you didn't see the characters that would have been cooler is because there is an X-Force movie coming, and they didn't.
You think they deliberately?
They deliberately said, well, the ones we want to use, we're not going to let you kill them off, so we'll give you Zeitgeist and Bedlam and these, you know, people that.
But here's the stupid thing: if they were gonna, I mean, just again, planning purposes. Let's say they're gonna retcon the whole thing because of the time travel.
Right.
You could have killed Wolverine. Here's the Charles Xavier, Beast, all of them, and brought them all back.
Yeah, and I don't think they're thinking that way, because I think, again, like I said to you, the next movie isn't going to retcon the whole movie. They're not thinking that him doing that teaser at the end stopped it from happening. They still want Cable. They still want all the events to happen so they can continue the story.
I get what you're saying.
So they wouldn't have done the retcon thing. I mean, they did show him save Peter, but
they could and they couldn't. You know what I mean? Like they
could have saved the rest. Yeah, he could have saved the rest. But
what'd you guys think of Peter as a character?
Yeah, I was kind of hoping for a bit more.
Really?
The way they set him up with the trailer, and they show him parachuting and looking all like perfect form, parachuting, and I was waiting for him to actually do something super heroic, which would have been.
I was kind of hoping he'd be the only one left.
Right.
Like when it was all said and done, and he's left with Peter. You know what I mean? Like,
well, he's left with Peter and Domino and Cable and all.
Right.
They all go and save the day. That's what I was hoping.
And then for Peter to like die some really stupid way. You know what I mean? Like he shoots Juggernaut, it bounces off his helmet and hits Peter in the head, and then he goes, "Well, shit," you know, like just something like that. I thought that would have been better. I mean, the wood chipper was funny enough. Yeah. What about Domino? We all talked about Domino. We are concerned about Domino. What did you think?
I liked the way they did the character. They did the character as kind of I see what they were going for. It was kind of like a Foxy Brown 70s version. I was fine with that because in the end, I actually liked the person playing it. I thought she had some charisma and I liked her approach. Was that it wasn't the Domino we know from the comics who's like kind of a badass and tough. It was I'm lucky. I'm always going to be safe. So she was like kind of that lighthearted feel. How would you feel if you knew you were always things were going to work out for you?
Right.
You know, you probably wouldn't be a very heavy, moody, badass, whatever. I mean, so that was their approach to it. So you didn't get if you wanted the comic Domino,
that's not it.
You didn't get it. But the way they did her, and the way they kind of did the whole sequence, like she got onto the truck and the whole time Deadpool's explaining how she's the dumbest character in the world.
Yeah.
It's not cinematic, and meanwhile you're seeing all the lucky things happen, and it doesn't do anything, and she gets there, and then she's like, I'm in. He's like, but you're in already.
Yeah.
I thought they made it work. And then the way she jumps out, and she knows she's going to be fine, she hits the inflatable panda, and all, you know, the way they did it.
I just thought it was funny, too, that he kept pointing out that being lucky is not a skill, or not a superpower. You don't have a superpower.
Yes, it is. So I was fine with the way they did it. It was obviously the movie version of it was not what you expect from the comics. I'm okay with it.
it threw me. And I'll tell you why it threw me. Not because it wasn't the comic book version. I was okay with that. It just... The fro, for whatever reason, I just can't explain it, just didn't seem to fit.
Well, because she's so visually iconic with that black kind of goth haircut that she has.
Yeah, and I just, even if it had been a less bushy fro, like a smaller fro, I might have been okay with it. But it just threw me. I don't know why. It just still threw me throughout the movie. I mean, I was okay with it.
Yeah.
And you're right. The actress did a spectacular job. She was strong with her character. I liked her character. I want her to be in the next Deadpool movie.
I'm looking forward to seeing her.
I'm looking forward to her in X-Force and whatever else she does. But it was just, the fro just seemed a little too much outside that. It was like they were going way outside the box on purpose, and I get it, but it was like too far for me. I don't know. How'd you feel about her character, Gary?
Yeah, I thought she did really well. I enjoyed that character.
Did the look throw you at all?
No.
Okay.
I got used to it real quick.
Yeah, same here.
I couldn't get myself into that. It took me out just a little bit, not a lot.
And that's what's funny is I grew up on the comics during this time period. I mean, we're talking. I have the collection of the whole Mutant Massacre, and the Age of Apocalypse, and all the different things. And
Yeah,
the whole time.
got them all sitting over there.
And I was still okay with the changes. I'm not so a slave
wasn't
to
like
these.
irked at it, like I hate Deadpool. It was just, it kind of took me out of the moment.
But I'm saying even with all the movies, when you look at even like Avengers and all that, they're pretty true to the characters, but not entirely. I mean, they are changing everything to some extent, some more so than others. I can't think of anything they've done in the movies that has bothered me. Not like the atrocious Fantastic Four movie we got just a little bit ago, where they turned Doctor Doom into a guy wrapped in metal from an alien planet, and
so let me ask you this:
all those characters, I didn't like the way they did that.
What about the X-Men costumes, though? That's never bothered you that they're not the stylized costumes we grew up with?
Well, I've always wanted them. I've definitely wanted to see them.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I think they've worked their way to get there. I mean, we now have fairly screen-accurate Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
He's got the cape. He's got everything.
You can't get any closer.
They're ready, I think,
to jump into
do. And they can explain it away because it is a new universe. They're moving into the Marvel version now, not the Sony version.
Yep.
I think we're finally going to see some of that.
Okay. So what about some of these other odd characters that we throw in?
What's his name there? Totally making fun of. God, my names are killing me today.
I got him up here.
Yeah, they had Shatterstar.
Oh yeah, Shatterstar.
Which was totally making fun of Rob Liefeld.
Yeah.
In a way, they're like taking. No one likes or cares about this character, but we'll put him in. We'll make him look cool. I thought that was kind of funny that they had him.
What about Bedlam? What about...
I like Terry. I wish Terry Crews actually comes back. I like him as an actor. I like his performances. He's also, he's super built. He's jacked. He's got the superhero look. He needs to come back and do something in one of these movies where he stays. Or they need to bring Bedlam back for another movie somehow.
I agree with you. What about Weasel?
I gotta admit, I was tainted by all the negativity I've heard of him. There's a lot of stories about him being a jerk lately, and stuff about him being the whole Me Too movement and him being to women and all that. And I gotta admit, I thought about it while he was on screen. I think he's a funny guy, and he was fine in the movie. But it's that sat in the back of my head.
Right.
It's that whole. I couldn't get rid of it.
I get it. How about Yukio?
I like what they did with her, just because she was like
I just wish I knew who she was supposed to be. You know what I mean? Like, she was just Yukio, and there's no mutant anywhere that I know.
Well, they said Surge. They talk about a character named Surge who controls electricity. They said she comes really close. They believe she's probably Surge.
And she's a fairly new character, I believe. So.
Oh, in the Marvel, and so if I'm not reading X-Men lately, I wouldn't know. That's okay. All right. What about Buck?
Which one was Buck?
Hang on.
I can't remember what Buck was.
I can't either.
I think he was in the bar there.
He was the guy at the bar.
Oh, okay.
Who ended up peeing himself?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
He was. Take it or leave it.
And Zeitgeist. What did you guys think of Zeitgeist?
Well, I remember seeing him a lot because he was a big character about the time when X-Force got rebranded because of the time period where they had like Dupe. and stuff, and it was like, that book got huge for a while.
Wasn't that right around the same time that the X-Men animated series came out, and some of those guys started kind of slipping into the... Okay.
I remember that whole thing being a very big deal. Like, it was a well-written comic. It had, I think Mike Allred was doing the drawing, so
I believe so, too.
It was kind of the introduction to a lot of people to his unique art style. It was very big. So I thought, when I realized who he was playing, even though he didn't have the costume at all,
right.
I realized who he was playing. I'm like, oh, that's kind of neat that they're doing him.
I didn't even know that's who he was till I left the theater, pulled up my IMDb, and went, "Oh, that's Zeitgeist." Like, I didn't catch on to that. Like, maybe I just
went over my head. But I saw a great alternative take where the person playing Zeitgeist was Bill Skarsgård,
right,
who played It in Derry.
Right.
And there's a great moment where he stands there, and it cuts to, he's just standing there not saying anything, and he cuts back to Deadpool, and he turns to, what's his name next to him, and he's just like, who is this clown?
Yeah.
And I'm like, they didn't leave that line in. I thought they should have. I thought it would have been a nice little moment, but...
So what about the humor in the movie? We all talked about, we were so afraid of the humor being too over the top. Like, the first movie was so dark that we thought that they might try to go the other way with this.
They got rid of the darkness. The darkness was now, instead of it being depressing dark, it was black humor dark. It was people dying for humorous reasons dark. And I felt that's much more in line with Deadpool than depression, out and out. Oh,
and it sounds dumb, but I'm kind of glad that they killed them the way they did, like wood chippers,
hitting the bus.
I mean, like
fried on the electrical.
Right, fried on the electrical. These are more like what I expect out of a Deadpool comic, than the last movie, where it was, like you said, they were trying so hard to tell the origin story and be dark about it. Whereas here, I kind of felt like the humor was the way the people died.
Yeah.
More like what I expect Deadpool to be, and I kind of liked that.
I liked. I thought the humor was pretty good. I thought the fourth wall breaking was. I mean, the fourth wall breaking started from the first shot,
right,
where he sets down the Wolverine music box and starts talking about movies. Wolverine died in his movie. I'm like, oh, they're going right from the beginning with this.
Yeah,
they're not even waiting.
Yeah.
So I liked that, and I thought that was good. I thought most of the fourth wall breaks worked for me.
I actually kind of liked the way they did the intro too. Like, it was another. Like the first movie had a weird intro where you're kind of like, where are we going with this? Like,
it starts at a later part.
Right.
It seems to be a trend where he starts part way into the movie, then tells
backs it up,
then tells beyond it.
Right. Which I thought was kind of cool. I liked it. I liked the backup. You know what I mean? And actually, this time, because my wife saw the first one with me, she was expecting it this time around, and it worked. I thought it worked. The only person I thought it was kind of weak in this whole movie, and I can't believe I'm saying this, is the kid, Fire Fist himself.
He was a bit.
And it was kind of almost distracting. His
look was unique. He was, I think, New Zealander or something. He had the accent. He just seemed hard. I guess they took away every single stereotype you'd seen a character like that. Like, normally the kid might be more withdrawn, he might look darker.
Right.
This kid didn't look super tough.
Right.
But I guess that was the point, was anyone bullied and mistreated and stuff can become a horrible bad guy if put in that position. So that's fine. Something about his acting, though, kept, every time he pulled me out. I don't know if it was his line readings, the way he emoted. I kept getting pulled out a little bit whenever he was doing stuff.
I just didn't get the impression that he was scary. You know what I mean? Like he had mutant powers, we knew that, but I just didn't feel like he was scary, and I don't know how you fix that.
Well, the thing I think Gates might be missing is he's a new mutant coming into his powers.
I get it.
So therefore doesn't know what he can do, what he can't do.
Not in control.
Right. And maybe he's holding back from losing control on it.
Yeah.
And when he gets older, he just embraces the fact that he doesn't know how to control it.
Right.
So we saw some Easter eggs in this movie. We were just looking at an article about some of those Easter eggs. There were quite a few that were in there. We actually talked about Peter and the things in there. He definitely makes references to other Marvel movies. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And we talked about the cameo as Brad Pitt as Vanisher, which I thought was
he talks about the Cable having a Winter Soldier arm.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
But not as good.
Yeah. And the Taylor Swift kitten T-shirt, which I never caught on to while he was in the actual X-Men Mansion. I remember the Hugh Jackman Les Miserables joke, which I thought was just awesome.
24601.
Yes, called him 24601. How about the redo?
I saw that in the commercial. I knew what they were doing right away when they did it. He cuts the bullet in half and then does the whole blocking, but he still gets shot. I thought that was...
And doesn't he kill himself, too, or something like that? Yeah, he killed himself, right?
He killed the original Deadpool.
Right.
Oh, yeah, at the end.
Yeah, at the very end.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Yeah.
There was a lot of people who even thought, okay, enough with the Green Lantern jokes when he shoots himself. Bring the Green Lantern script.
Yeah.
So some people have been like, okay, we're done with that. That's kind of...
Now here's an Easter egg you may not have gotten. I didn't get it while it was there. The shirt he's wearing while he's at the apartment when Cable shows up, it's the exact same style of shirt. I can't believe this is true. The Chunk wears from Goonies. It's the same style of shirt.
Someone in the costume department had some fun.
Yeah, somebody was definitely making sure. Apparently, the director made a cameo.
Yeah, what did it say he did? He's one of Cable's prisons in the victims in the prison.
Yeah, scroll back up so you can see the cab. Okay, you can't see the
Alpha Flight ad on the top of the cab. Alpha Flight to Canada.
Oh yeah, you can't see that, but it's actually there. There's the one-eyed Willie comment that he makes throughout the whole thing. We talked about Logan's movie box. How about the gray X-Force costume?
I picked up on that.
I did too. Immediately as soon as I saw it, I'm like, oh, nice.
He's burned, but that looks too even. It's like they're definitely playing off that.
They totally brought that look back. Now, I liked that costume, so the fact that they homaged to it, I thought it was kind of cool. It was an interesting way to bring that costume into the fold of that particular moment. The X-Men T-shirt. What'd you guys think of that? The jersey, trainee, right? I mean, how about all of that too? Like the fact that he's in X-Men in training and all that. I mean, I thought that was actually kind of funny. I thought that played out well.
Yeah.
It could have been worse, but I thought it played out well. Alan Tudyk was there as Redneck number 2. Being lectured on the truly proper way to go about wiping oneself in the washroom.
Yeah, one of the rednecks, I don't think they listed here, I think was played by Matt Damon.
Oh, really?
In the back of the truck.
Could be.
I thought I heard something about that.
Okay. Hope was obviously the person who, that's the bear, right? It belongs to Hope, if I remember correctly.
The bear is his daughter's, and he keeps it with him.
Now, this is one I didn't catch that Gary said.
I caught that one right from the
X6 Corporation.
And that's only because I'm a Mr. Sinister fan.
I was looking for an X6 thing, but I didn't catch it. Now, where was it? Was it on the briefcase?
It was on the briefcase and in the school.
Was it actually called the Essex School?
No,
or was it just sponsored by Essex?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, I didn't catch on to that. I didn't catch on to that the kid was actually Fire Fist. I'd never heard of that mutant. That was the first time I'd ever heard of it. So that was kind of a new one. Depender's Taxi actually had an Easter egg to Alpha Flight.
Yep, the ad on top is about flying to Canada.
And, I thought that was kind of interesting. The cure for blindness being there all along. We talked about that. Apparently, Deadpool's creator cannot draw feet, if you did not know that.
Yeah, Rob Liefeld.
Yeah, there's a long-running joke with that.
Is that really? I was unaware of that. And, there's lots of other little ones here and there about the Geppetto wood chipper named Zeitgeist. M-Day is near. Now, you had to explain to me what M-Day was, Eric. So what's M-Day again?
It was a comic line. It was one of their big, events, crossover events, when the Scarlet Witch basically made mutants not exist anymore, and about 200 of them survived. They were on the edge of extinction.
Okay, so the chants of purity or unity apparently are what started the idea of a statement that M-Day is near, which is kind of interesting. And the new mutant, who we're not sure, is Yukio, but could be, as you guys said.
We think it's Surge.
We think it might be Surge. So, final thoughts on this movie before we move on to Han Solo. What did you guys think of Deadpool? Was it a must-see? Was it a kind of must-see? Or
for me, it was like number one.
Let's give 0 to 10, I guess, like we always do.
People loved number one. Yeah. I was always more reserved about it. I enjoyed it, enjoyed what it did, thought it needed some help. I think number 2 was, for me, better.
Okay.
Still can't go full in on it because of the problems we've already discussed with some of the storytelling pacing, some of the weird things with Cable just being thrust upon you to get him in there. And, if you look at it from an outside point of view, all of a sudden a guy coming back from the future where there's no explanation for it and everything. Some of the characterizations that were done, but, most of the humor, hilarious, most of the timing, great. The action sequences, really well done. Special effects, visuals, him as Deadpool, as always, top-notch. I'm going to give it a solid, out of 10, I'm going to say, can I do halves?
Sure.
7.5.
Okay.
I can't go, 9 or even 8, which is really way up there, but I don't want to go lower than 7 because that starts making it sound middle of the road. It's definitely better than middle of the road. So I'm going to give it a good solid 7.5 and say, if you're a fan, see it in the theater.
Okay. So I was a huge Deadpool 1 fan. I mean, I massively loved the first Deadpool movie. I actually thought the storytelling was good. You've brought about the dark side of it, but I was expecting it to be dark. I kind of went in pre-blown, I guess, knowing...
What kind of night you had when you saw that movie? We don't even know.
Pretty mind blown about the idea that it wasn't going to be a humor all out. I kind of had a feeling that was going to be the case. But this movie had some problems. This movie had some storytelling issues. It actually had a bad guy issue for a while. For almost half the movie, I didn't know who our bad guy was. Where were you going with this? It actually had me slightly confused, and I'm a Deadpool, X-Force, X-Men, New Mutants fan, and I was slightly confused for a little bit, so I can only imagine how my wife felt for a while.
Oh, yeah.
And so I get that. I actually understood where she was coming from, going, I'm not sure I understand. And she kept leaning at me going, do you know what's going on? And I actually looked at her at one point and went, I'm not sure right now. I thought I knew, but I'm starting to think I don't know my X-Men all of a sudden. It got back there, eventually got back to what I know, but it took a while to get there. So it bothered me a little bit. It bothered me a little bit that we had mutants that I didn't know. And I don't know, I guess I don't like feeling dumb in my own movie, you know what I mean? Where I go to see a movie, especially when it's supposed to be geeky like this, I want to feel like I'm in the know, and I actually felt like I didn't know for part of it. So I'm not going to give this one a 10, but I'm not going to give it a middle-of-the-road 5. So for me, it was a 7. It was a solid 7. I mean, it was a good movie. I'll watch it again, and I'll buy it like I buy most of the movies I want to see over and over again. I'll watch it, several more times. Just some things that pulled me out. The only other thing that I had to say was Domino just felt odd. I just pulled me out just a little bit, just that little bit. Gary, what do you think?
Well, I guess I'm the odd guy out here in this whole thing.
Okay.
I'm giving it an 8.
Okay. Wow.
And the reason why is because, of course, I'm biased on this because Class is in it. The Essex Corp stuff's in it.
Yeah.
Two of my favorite villains and good guys that are in X-Men.
Yep.
I like the fact that they did touch upon the Mojo world.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Which Chester said, where are you from? I'm from Mojo world. It's a whole TV planet. So I like that part. But like you guys are saying, you didn't understand who the bad guy was, which the bad guy's Wade. Sorry, but he is.
Yeah. To an extent, yes. I get what you're saying.
They dropped the ball at Black Tom, I thought.
Yeah.
Even the Juggernaut, even though I did like him in the fight that Colossus and him had was good, they still dropped the ball with him.
Yep.
I did like the homage to the Hulk Wolverine fights where Juggernaut ripped Wade in half.
Yep. Where
the Hulk always did that to Wolverine. Mm-hmm. And then tossed his legs up on top of Mount Everest, and he had to go retrieve them.
Yep.
So yeah, I give it an 8. So.
Okay, so those were our thoughts on Deadpool 2. We're going to come back just after this commercial break, and we're going to talk about Han Solo, A Star Wars Story. We'll be back in just a moment. You guys need to take a quick break?
I do.
Okay. I'd like to stretch my legs.
Okay.
I haven't done this.
Were you pausing, YouTubers? All right, YouTube's back on. Let me get our audio going. Hey, none of that now.
All right.
Okay, here we go. Hey folks, welcome back to this episode of the GalaxyCast. This is our two-parter, and we're on the second part. Tonight, we are going to finish our podcast by talking about Star Wars Solo. What's the official name for it again?
Solo, a Star Wars story.
Solo, a Star Wars story. That'll be an edit later on.
Star Wars,
a solo story.
Star Wars, a solo movie.
I'm sorry, it's too confusing to have a movie named that. They should have given it a better name, like Hip Pull Boy or something, I don't know.
Star Wars, Millennium Falcon.
Star Wars, I got some swag. Something.
Star Solo, a Wars story.
Good word. Okay, so we're going to talk about what was supposed to be a pretty big deal. The Solo story.
Yeah.
And ironically, let's talk about this part first, it wasn't. It was the movie that wasn't. And that's the really weird thing about this. Somehow this movie fell massively short of its budget in as far as pulling in money. What do you guys think is the reason for that? Like, what caused that? I mean, like, there's a lot of debate about this.
I think it's 3 parts.
Okay.
I'm going to say 4 parts. 1, bad marketing.
Okay.
Or complete lack thereof. First commercial or anything I saw for it, Super Bowl this year, a couple months before it came out.
Yeah.
You needed a year.
Yeah.
2, oversaturation. We just got off a Star Wars movie not 4.5 months ago or whatever, or 5 months ago, and here comes another Star Wars movie. Go see again. While there's also Avengers and Deadpool and all these other things. People at some point are going to say, I can wait for this for DVD or Netflix or whatever, you know, they're going to say that. 3, fan backlash to The Last Jedi. A lot of people hated that movie. A lot of people hate where Star Wars is going. I'm not saying for good or bad reasons. I'm just talking about what's out there in the social media sphere.
Yep.
And that backlash struck this movie. And 4, you are telling a movie about an iconic person that everyone associates with Harrison Ford, recast with what I think was a miscast. I'm not saying he was horrible. He was a good actor, and there were parts of it I liked, but you don't see Han Solo when you look at him. He visually did not look like the character, and I think that was vitally important, that you needed to see a young Harrison Ford to buy into this as much as you did.
And 5, the backlash of the original directors getting fired.
There's that. Oh yeah, 5, the whole behind the scenes.
Right. Because they dumped a bunch of money into it for their version.
Right.
And they scrapped it.
Yep.
And they brought Ron Howard in. I don't know how much they paid him or nothing. I don't really care, but you know that's
they had to redo.
That's stuff that they redid.
And that's a bad. I mean, we talked about how J.J. Abrams left Rian Johnson a whole notes on how the trilogy should go and everything. And here's the things I'm setting up, and you can carry them your own way. But here's where we should take these things. And he completely ignored it. And it's been documented that they went their own route. And it's like, how are you telling a major trilogy of stories without connecting tissue and without, you're ignoring these details? So leaving that aside, how are they also setting up a movie and letting 2 people direct it and not finding out that tonally it's not what they're looking for at all until they're that far into it?
Right.
There is some major miscommunication going on between Lucasfilm and these productions that are happening. Something's going on with either it's gotten too big and too many things are happening at once, or there's some mismanagement, or there's definitely bad communication lines. But whatever, you should know very early on in the process, if you're hiring directors who tonally are a fit for the story you're trying to tell, you should be seeing dailies or material and be reviewing it. How come you're not seeing those things until you send someone around the world to the shooting sites?
Without even telling you guys, you just brought me to my next subject.
No.
Is all of this Kathleen Kennedy's fault?
That's what I was just going to say. I put the ball in her court that she dropped it.
I can't speak to that because I don't know the behind the scenes. I know what people say.
She is the overarching head of LFL right now. Disney has handed the mantle to her and said, this is your responsibility.
I know this. She's no Kevin Feige when it comes to maintaining a universe.
And that's the problem, right? Like, part of me is sitting here saying, somebody's got to take the hit for this one. And I hate to be like that, but Han Solo, as far as a movie, this solo movie, did not really meet the expectations they had for it. So someone's going to take the fall for that.
And expectations for a solo movie
were way over.
They're huge. If you're going to tell the Han Solo story, you better get it really right. And we just named 5 things. It's like a perfect storm of things going wrong.
Yeah.
So this movie, even coming out and doing anything, had everything stacked against it. Because
here's the ironic thing. Notice nobody blamed Ron Howard. No one.
Because they like him as a director. They know he knows how to tell a good story.
And ultimately, and let's be honest about this, backing it up for a second, is it really that bad of a story?
I enjoyed the movie.
I actually liked it, and we'll talk about that in a minute. We'll get into the movie in a minute. But I thought Ron Howard did a spectacular job. But this thing was,
I will say Ron Howard did a spectacular job, but I can't say how much of a spectacular job until I know how much
of it was that. Right. But remember, it was moving towards a comedy.
Yeah, I have a feeling a lot of it was.
So part of me sitting here saying, if it was supposed to be comedic, there was none of that in the one I saw.
Obviously, if Paul Bettany was a recast character, and that character was, even though it was a couple scenes, was fairly important, there was a lot that had to be reshot to change the tone. So I'm willing to bet a lot of what we saw was Ron Howard.
Oh, I think so. I think you've probably seen 95% Ron Howard.
I was going to say, I think they scrapped the whole...
I almost wonder too, Gary, yeah.
And then Ron Howard
just reshot it.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I wonder if he just took the small clips and reshot.
And that's where a lot of the budget
probably went to.
That's huge, yeah.
And, it does make me wonder if they didn't have to do reshoots. So the budget was smaller for the initial take of the movie. So let's say Ron Howard came in at the beginning. They made the movie they wanted. They didn't spend as much on the budget. Would they have had more money to market, and therefore would have been able to push this movie?
They would have had more money to market. They also wouldn't have had the bad publicity we were hearing of the whole directors being fired and what's this going on. Right. You didn't have any of that behind-the-scenes chaos. Everyone would have had a more positive attitude towards the film.
Right.
So there were, like I said, there were a number of things. Everything that could have gone wrong with this movie did.
Now, do you think the reason it didn't do well at all has anything to do with the backlash over The Last Jedi?
Yeah, oh yeah.
You really think so?
I think some of it. I think there are people who stayed away.
Because I think there was a massive backlash over The Force Awakens. I gotta be honest about that. There was some serious backlash about that. You guys had some backlash about it, but I don't think it stopped you guys from going to see Rogue One, right? I mean,
no. And it didn't stop me from going to see Han Solo.
Right. You're not talking about what I'm saying, right?
Like, there is a certain part of the population who gets so pissy.
Yeah, I get it.
Who get so upset about their Star Wars.
But I'm saying that's, to me, that's such a small...
I don't know if it is.
I think it's only like a 10% maybe portion of that population.
I can speak for some of my friends outside of our group that are Star Wars fans that refuse to go see Solo because of The Last Jedi.
And to me, that backlash, if that's the case, is aimed incorrectly. Like, if you're not going to go see another Star Wars film, then don't go see 9. But
These ones probably won't.
Yeah, and I get that. But Solo, to continue out on Solo, do you know what I mean? Like, a little unfair because really the two things are in different...
Solo should come out next Christmas.
I agree with you there.
This whole
oversaturation thing, I agree with you. The timing was bad. And part of me was sitting here saying, like, from a geeky person standpoint here, okay? There's been a lot of movies in the last 5 months. And I've had to start making really bad decisions about what I want to go see and what I don't want to go see in the theater. Like, do I want to see Black Panther and not see... was it Annihilation that had Natalie Portman in it?
Yeah.
Do I want to go see Deadpool 2 and not see Han Solo? I mean, we're having to make some tough decisions about what we want to see and what we don't want to see.
Your question about Annihilation or Black Panther?
Yeah.
I Black Panther.
I agree with you there. But
only for the fact that I don't like Natalie Portman anymore.
Yeah, okay. But I mean, like, there have been some tough decisions to have to make. And here's the reality. Most of us do not have never-ending pockets, and we need to start making decisions about what I want to go to the movie and see and what I don't. And when you put all these movies kind of stacked up week after week after week, at some point I have to make a decision. I'm going to go see this, but not that. I'm going to go see this, but not that, even though I'd love to see it in the theater.
I saw Pacific Rim 1 in the theater. I thought I'd go see 2 when I heard the sequel.
I'd seen here, and I decided not to.
Nope, didn't. And it
just came on at such a time that it was kind of like I couldn't do it, you know?
Well, again, the reason why I waited for it to come on video was because I don't care for John Boyega or whatever you want to call him.
No.
And he's in it. I don't care for him.
And so part of me is sitting here saying, I don't think it's just an oversaturation of Star Wars. I think it's just an oversaturation.
I think it's both.
Right? Like, it's both, but I mean, like, you're right. I mean, Star Wars is in and of itself causing its own problems.
You gotta remember, when Star Wars was big, even during the prequels,
right?
You could get a lead up and see the movie, and then, a cool down after. then you wouldn't hear much about Star Wars for like a year and a half.
Right.
Until the next one started warming up. You hear about Star Wars every single day in certain fields and certain online media and stuff.
And it also was on TV shows all the time.
Now we've got animated TV shows, we got books, we got comics. I mean, you can't
keep up with it all.
You've got a lot.
But the problem with the Star Wars movies, though, is they're relying on these other mediums to carry on the story.
Did I not say? You can go back to that episode where I said, the day that comes where I've got to rely on other media to tell me my main story is the day they're going to start losing fans.
Like Rey's parents? Like those kinds of things? Snoke, all that?
Well, okay, let's just look at The Last Jedi for a minute.
Yeah.
What was that? Was there really any story to it?
Not to me.
All it was
we found Luke.
The Jerry Bruckheimer, Michael Bay movie. That's what it looked like.
It was, as we've said before, it was a nonsensical long chase scene.
Yeah.
A side shoot into a political commentary casino planet with a bizarre run-in with a strange character who just happened to be who they needed to meet sitting in their
It's some sort of weird comment about slavery, but not really.
Yes, the whole war machine and profiteering.
Right.
And it was a story of a grumpy old man who didn't want to help a girl for most of it, It's like...
Well, that's really weird. You just summed up that movie in about 4 sentences.
Yeah, with a reverse telling of Empire Strikes Back.
Right.
We did the training with Dagobah, but that happened earlier than later, and we had the fight scene against the Walkers later rather than earlier, and it was reversed.
Here's an even better one for you. Your hero fell at the beginning instead of the end. Think about Empire. The hero is at the end, right? But in this movie, when you think about it, the hero fall is at the beginning. When Luke tosses the lightsaber, that's the hero fall moment, right?
Again, it's a reverse telling of the Empire Strikes Back.
Right, it is. But I'm just like, as soon as you said that, that's where I was like, wait a minute, the hero falls at the beginning too. Like it is completely in reverse. You're right. It was almost like somebody backed into the Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, it was all flash, bang, boom. That's all it was.
Anyway, we're going too much into that.
Let's talk about it.
So there's a lot of storytelling backlash there. People unhappy with where the story was going. Then you're saying, hey, remember that guy you loved? You remember those mythical adventures he had beforehand that you don't really need to tell us? We're fine imagining them. We're going to tell them to you. We're going to tell you actually what happened.
Right.
And it's the same problem I had when I heard that the sequels were coming out to the original trilogy.
Okay.
I always imagined they were heroes. Right. Yeah, other things happened, but I don't have to actually know what happened.
Right.
And my fear was, are they going to have real world problems? Are they going to still be the heroes I remember? And sure enough, it comes out, everything falls apart, divorce of Han and Leia, and Luke runs off and hides, and the kid turns bad, and everything's bad. And they did what I was worried about.
Right.
So after all these storytelling things, now you're telling me you're going to tell the story of Solo, and we're going to find out what the Kessel Run was, and how he met Lando, and how he met Chewie, and I'm like, I don't need to know these things. Stop putting definitive stories to things that don't need definitive stories. Let them be mythical. That adds to the character and the mystique. And now I see Han Solo differently. I know exactly, you're telling me exactly who he was.
Now, let me ask you this question, though. Now that you've seen the movie, is it bad, all the things that we know of the backstory?
I don't like the Kessel Run thing. I always imagined the Kessel Run as being some kind of thing that people did in competition with each other over time, and I had my own kind of telling of the story and stuff, and I found out, no, it's just a path you got to take through a certain nebula because you can't go off route, and he took it a different way.
Now, that was explained in a book somewhere. I don't remember which book that was. I want to say it was a New Jedi Order book where they explained the Kessel Run, and so as soon as they explained it in the movie, it was I almost want to say it was verbatim. I'm trying to think of who wrote the book. Aaron Alston, I think, wrote the book. And it was an almost verbatim explanation.
The problem I had with the Kessel Run was too much Fury Road-ish.
Yeah, there was that. And then you have a whole tentacle alien, and black hole thing that's kind of like, we need these extra, it would have just been a chase with the Empire through a very hard to navigate system. Let's add in a giant tentacle monster and a crashing well of gravity too. And it's like it got to be too much for it. I didn't like the way they did it.
Yeah, I get that.
It goes back to the space whales. I have a problem with the space whales, and I have a problem with tentacle creatures in the middle of space.
So then Also, we saw how he met Chewie. I actually admit I liked the scene in the beginning where he met Chewie. I liked where he talked to him in his own language a bit, and then where they discussed how to escape, and they faked the fight, and Chewie's going along with it.
Right.
And everything. I thought all that was kind of fun. But it's like it happened so quick. It's like I always felt like him rescuing Chewie also should have been more of a... This was kind of a get my own butt out of thing. It wasn't really a rescue. He's like, I'm getting my own butt out of here. You can help me.
Right.
I always thought, because Han was a good guy down and the way they were so close, that he saved Chewie out of compassion or something and escaped him. Right. And that's not what happened. Now I find out. I found out it was a mutually beneficial, hey, we got to get out of here and you're trapped with you.
Right. And Chewie's supposed to have the life debt with Han and all that.
Where did that come in? I don't know where the life debt came in. Or maybe it hasn't happened yet.
Well, I don't know. He saved him on the train.
That's the life debt.
Exactly.
That is a crappy life debt.
Exactly. And that's why I don't need to know those things.
The life debt comes from when he hands the spear to Chewie to go free the other Wookiees.
Is that what it is?
That's what I think it is.
Even that's a crappy life debt, though. I'm sorry. To me, the life debt, Han should have, I don't know, there should have been some big gesture for Han to have some sort of life debt.
I told you, I always remember this great concept art I saw back when the comics were telling the expanded universe stories. It was a picture of the Empire ID with Han, with Solo on it, and him burning it.
Right.
And in the background, you could see Chewie.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And I thought that was just this one comic image told a whole story, and it was great. He burned his card because he didn't like what was being done with this, Wookiee, and he being friendly with him, and
slavery.
was going to escape. I also didn't like that his name's not really Han Solo.
Yeah, that bothered me a lot too.
Yeah, what was there a name? I forgot.
He didn't really have one.
My name's Han. What's your last name? I don't know. I've always been by myself.
Yeah, it's like they gave him Solo. It's like,
okay, your name's Han Solo now.
And I never imagined he was an orphan.
I never imagined he was an orphan. I also, when he was going to the Imperial Academy, I was expecting to fully see him flying a ship. In the Imperial, he was supposed to be an amazing pilot, right?
They didn't show that part.
Never showed it.
They talk about it. They say, hey, I did all this stuff, but they didn't like me because I broke too many rules, and so now they got me down here doing stuff. He says that like on the planet while they're
I would
fighting.
rather have seen him in a pilot's costume.
Yeah. I pictured a little like a Top Gun montage.
I was expecting something
Top Gun in space, and then he breaks Chewie out and flies out with a ship and escapes and becomes a smuggler or something, But here's the problem, and it's one of the problems they say, fans don't own it.
Right.
We make up our own stories in our head. The fact that they don't match what they tell shouldn't be something we get mad about. But my point is, you don't need to tell us these stories. Tell us new ones that we don't have pre-imagined. There's an infinite number you could be going if you're creative. You don't need to keep going back to the well and half relying on nostalgia.
But the problem they've got, and this is where Disney, it's partially their problem too, when they went and took all this legacy stuff and went out the door, right? The problem is we all read all, this is what we grew up on, right? And you're trying to tell me to ignore some of those stories that I read over and over again as a kid. I can't just suddenly be like, all right, I forget that. No, Han, in the books, Han was part of the Imperial Academy. He brags about being part of the Imperial Academy. You can't just take that out. You just can't suddenly be like, well, now he's a mud trooper. Sorry, that never happened.
Right, which is explain why he knew the going-ins with the Imperial Stars.
Their flight plans, how they were going to enter your ship, all that stuff, right? That explains in A New Hope how he knew where to put the smuggling racks so that people wouldn't find them. I mean, just...
Well, even when he was talking about the Millennium Falcon, you never heard of it, was do whatever it can,
right.
And I'm not talking about the
little light cruisers or whatever, yeah.
I'm talking about the Imperial, the Star Destroyers and stuff.
Right. You had this feeling of him, even from A New Hope, where you barely knew him, that he had all this knowledge about the Empire that the average person just doesn't have.
Here's the biggest problem though I have with Solo. And this came from watching someone else's kind of review of it, an essay of it, and I went, my God, they struck on a really good point here. What is Han Solo's story in A New Hope? A guy who's just in it for the money,
right? Yep.
Finds a conscience, and ends up coming back and changing who he is to help the rebellion and to save the kid.
Yep.
He does that in this movie.
Right.
He's already a good guy. He gives up all the stuff he collects. He doesn't smuggle. He gives it to the rebellion and resistance.
Right.
So what you're telling me is he's not who I thought he was at the beginning of New Hope. He wasn't a real smuggler and the kind of bad guy who changed.
He was already redeemed.
He was already redeemed.
Right.
So you're negating an important point of his character from Star Wars.
Okay, but here's an asking point that might even start your change on that. Back when Lucas decided to do these special editions and change the Han Solo shot first thing, don't you think they started to alter it right there?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they didn't want him to be the bad boy pirate. They wanted him already to have the hero.
That's why I never liked the shoot first.
I never liked the shoot first.
I always think he shot first. The whole point was he shot him under the table.
Right, or he just moved his leg and aimed it right at Greedo. That's some part I always liked. It wasn't just the blaster. He had the blaster hooked up to his leg still. He never pulled it out.
No, he just tilted it.
Tilted it so you could just fire. And I always thought that's what made him so cool.
Yes.
Han just moved his leg, didn't even pull the blaster out.
Yeah, but that's the type of things. That's the retelling of the people.
Right, but that's the weird thing when we grew up with all this, right? We knew this. My kids, that you know what I mean? That's not the Han Solo they grew up with, so we have that epiphany about it, but I'm not sure they do. You know what I mean? That's the really weird thing. So really, I don't know. They might have calculated that all.
They say it. They say, well, you don't own Star Wars. It can change for a new generation.
Right.
It can. But I don't know why. Here's the thing. Fine, change it going forward.
Right.
Tell new stories.
Right.
Why are you changing the past ones? Why are you rewriting the history of it? When leave the history as it is. Rewriting history never turns out good. Leave the history truthful. Follow it. Tell new stories going forward.
You know what I really wonder too? If they deliberately picked the Han Solo story, right? Because ultimately, hear me out in this one. In the grander scheme of things, of all of the original actors, the one who could really care less about his character was Harrison Ford. So they could kind of pick on Han Solo a little bit and mess with him because Harrison Ford's not going to care ultimately.
Okay, I'll debunk you on that a little bit. But
okay.
I'll just add this one. The only actor from the original movies that didn't like his character and is still alive.
Okay, yes, I will give you that. It's Harrison Ford, yes.
Right. The other one was Alec Guinness.
Guinness never liked
Obi-Wan Kenobi at all.
And it's ironic because part of me wonders if Guinness had been around now, seeing Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan, if he actually would have been yeah, that made it better. Because I really think McGregor did Obi-Wan justice.
Yes.
I mean, seriously.
He's one of the few characters that don't have trouble.
Right, and I think Alec Guinness would have looked at that Obi-Wan and gone, I like that. Okay, I'm good with my character now. I think it might have tamed him down a little bit to be okay, now I get it.
I don't know. I think he might still hate Obi-Wan. He just thought that Star Wars was silly.
He called it a laser sword movie or something weird.
He called it a silly movie.
Yeah. But look at where it went. But okay, so what parts of this movie did you like? So let's get into the movie now. What part of the Solo story did you absolutely like?
I did like the sequence where he met Chewie.
Okay.
I liked at least their interactions and the humor of it and stuff like that. I actually thought the train sequence was a pretty darn good sequence.
Pretty well put together.
I liked the people flying around. I liked the magnetic boots. I liked the hanging and the rotation and stuff and the plan. I liked him going back up and the guy dying next to him and stuff. I'm I didn't expect that guy to get bit and bite it. And he did.
John Favreau died.
Yeah, John Favreau.
Yeah, John Favreau.
I thought that the girls going out was kind of unnecessary. It's really, you'll trap yourself up on you didn't really have a better plan than climb up there and get yourself trapped and have to blow yourself up. And
it was to free them though, more than anything.
Yeah, but still, I don't know. I like the train though.
Clint Howard's cameo.
I have to admit that was pretty funny, and I was kind of okay, well done, Ron, well done.
I actually liked Danny Glover's Lando.
Yeah,
for the most part, I thought he did a really good job. I mean, when I first heard his voice at the table, I'm oh my god.
That's Donald Glover, not Danny.
Yeah, Donald Glover.
Danny would be for this Baccarat stuff.
But here's the ironic thing. Donald Glover, I think, stole the day. Yes. Don't you think?
He was. Yeah.
They almost could have called this a Lando Calrissian movie and been okay. You know what I mean? Like, it should have been Han and Lando. Really, Han and Lando.
Han met Lando.
Because, like, to me, he's
a buddy musical movie.
Donald Glover stole the day from the minute he ended up on the screen. Because from that point forward, then you're like, okay, now those are the scoundrels I know.
Right.
But you didn't feel like that up until Lando shows up. Then you suddenly feel like when you start seeing Sabak being played and all this stuff going on, then you're like, okay, this is the Han Solo I know. But it took you up until what? Almost the halfway point?
Yeah.
When Lando shows up? Donald Glover stole it. I mean, totally stole it. I'm amazed Disney not right now clamoring to go, we need a Calrissian movie.
I think they want to have him back. I actually, even though he was a replacement, I thought Paul Bettany was very menacing.
Yes.
I was like, you never knew when his character what he was going to do. He had that kind of approach of, crap, this guy's unpredictable.
The controversy in our world, the Mandalorian armor in the background, what do you think that meant? I mean, it was just there. Was he Mandalorian? Was that just a...
The point is, we have to jump to the end of the movie.
Yeah, that's okay.
Cameo of the big bad.
Right.
Darth Maul is the one who was doing all this.
Yeah.
It goes to the expanded universe where Darth Maul ran
the Mandos.
And ran
the crime syndicate. The whole thing is about apparently the crime syndicate.
Yeah, Red Sun.
Red Sun. Yeah. They think this is all the movie is all about the Red Sun, even though they're not named. Well, they do name Red Sun a little bit, don't they?
Yeah.
He's running it. And the Mandos, there were Mandos that were loyal to him, weren't there? They had certain armor and stuff. That's how it all ties together.
That armor didn't even come close to
No, it didn't, but I still think that's how they said it all tied in.
And I'm sorry, the prop department dropped the ball.
Oh my gosh. I am so dismayed at that Mando armor. I don't know if you've seen the close-up pictures they've taken. It's leather samurai Bushido armor.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely it is.
With a Mando bucket.
With the Mando bucket and just a little bit of the chest piece thrown in there just for good measure, but not enough to make it. And I was just kind of like, really? Like, seriously, we have thousands of Mando prop guys that could have built you totally bad butt Mando armor, and you didn't ask any of us to do it. Like, I would have clamored to make armor to put on that set. And like, yeah, I agree with you, Gary. Somebody dropped the ball massively. I would have donated it to it. Just put my name at the end of the movie. I would have donated it to the movie just to have the right Mando armor sitting on a mannequin somewhere. Yeah, seriously.
Just throw my armor.
I would do that too. I would retire my armor, give it to them, put it on the mannequin. I'd be like, oh, I'm good. We can just retire now. I'm happy. Seriously, I don't understand when you've got that option and that ability. Why would you get wimpy like that? Sorry, that's my lecture of this particular movie.
That's a rant.
That's my rant about that.
But I like Paul Bettany a lot.
I agree with you. I like Paul Bettany. I actually like Kira.
Yeah,
she surprised me, to be honest with you.
I got mixed feelings with her on that.
At first, I was sitting there going, okay, it's not the chick from Game of Thrones. This is not Khaleesi. This is not Khaleesi. Like, I had to tell myself at the beginning, like, it's not Khaleesi, not Khaleesi. So it took me a little bit, but
you're the only one that's seeing her as Khaleesi. I didn't see her as Khaleesi.
I didn't at all, but I don't watch the show, so.
Right.
I saw her Sarah Connors in it.
Well, that too, yeah.
Because of the dark hair.
Right. So I kept having to try to tell myself, if that's not the case, not the case, not the case. But actually, within 5 minutes, I totally forgot all of that, and I was cool with it. I liked her. I liked her character. I actually was sitting there going, man, I want to know more. Like, I want to know more about Kira and her role, and like, where does she go from here? Right? Like, what happens? Like, I don't know. So I liked her character. I really did. I thought it was well done. The disappointments. Let's talk about.
Hold on, I do have one other good like.
Go ahead.
I like that Han Solo shot first.
Yes.
At the end of the movie, right in the middle of the speech, doesn't even wait for him to stop talking, just shoots. And I'm like, thank you.
Yeah, it was a redemption for all those years.
That's Han Solo.
And Woody Harrelson's character goes, good shot,
kid. I would have killed you.
Speaking of Woody Harrelson, what did you guys think of Woody Harrelson?
I hate him.
I thought he did a good job.
I liked his character.
Okay. I wish to God. It's just the problem is I see Woody Harrelson. I can't not. And he was good for the most part. I liked him. You know, Beckett was a good character, and
See, I love this character and the idea.
I wonder if I would have liked it better if it was being played by someone I didn't know.
I get what you're saying.
A non-recognizable face.
That's the problem I got with the Star Wars movies. I believe this is the problem I got with the Star Wars movies. These actors that they have in them are known.
I get what you're saying.
We need to have nobodies playing.
We need to go back to what A New Hope did, which is just find people we don't know. You know?
Let's face it. Did you ever hear Daisy Ridley before A New Hope or Force Awakens or John Boyega? I'd seen him in one movie. I'd seen him in one, and I hadn't seen. I know that what's his name, Kylo Ren there, Adam Driver was big in like girls and some TV shows, but I'd never seen him. So they picked to me the level that they had experience, but I wasn't super familiar with them, and that worked. Those people own those characters for me. Even though I don't like the stories and what they're doing with them, they own those characters. So I don't think they did bad there, but I think in other cases, casting named people.
But I get what Gary's saying. Like when A New Hope came out, they were literally know-nothings, most of them.
The only ones you knew anything about, and
Alec Guinness and Peter Cushing were the only two.
Harrison Ford had just been in.
But remember,
he's a bit partner.
Right. And they were recording at the same time in two studios right across the soundstage from each other.
No, not American Graffiti.
I'm pretty sure. No, that's right. It ended the year before, didn't it?
No, American Graffiti came out in the early 70s.
Was it early 70s?
Yes.
Okay. Maybe it was 2 I was thinking about. I think American Graffiti 2 might have been happening right around the same time.
He wasn't in it, though.
Right. But all put together, I thought Woody Harrelson played a great job in this role, and I was okay with it because his haircut was so weird that it kind of made you feel like, okay, it's Woody Harrelson, but it's not.
He just got over the death of his girl way too quick.
I'll give you that one.
That was kind of like, oh, I guess she just doesn't matter.
I wrote that off as a pirate who was like, well, there goes my girlfriend. You know, I mean, like, I don't know. I just kind of wrote that off as that. I like the fact that he's the guy that gave Han Solo his blaster. And that the blaster has a whole heck of a lot more going on than we originally thought.
Yeah, I want to see the blaster.
I want to see the full thing, the full rifle now. Like I want to see, like almost want to see it and then make it for my Mando, because how cool would that be? Like I don't know. I just thought that whole part was cool. All right, so let's talk about the detractors, because we've talked about all the things we like. What were some of the detractors?
The one main thing I did like the Falcon. As a brand new ship,
Falcon,
and how they destroyed it. I liked it. I liked that.
I thought it was a little fast to destroy it, but all I can think of was like everybody who buys a new car knows, and the minute you drive it off the lot, it's now completely like 20% less than it was worth the minute you bought the car, right? I mean, like,
but picture. It's not your shit. It's not your car,
right?
You bought the car, and I took it. For a
joyride, yeah.
Right, I brought it back to you that way. That's how I looked at it.
I gotta admit, another good moment was, and it's just an individual moment, is when he's like, there are 30 armed people on that ship who are going to be out here at a moment's notice, and she takes off.
Yeah.
Because of Woody Harrelson, as you were saying.
Yeah.
I thought that was a good moment.
So, so we had a lot of good moments, but let's talk about the ones we were kind of like, Okay, so what were some of the moments that made you question this movie a little bit?
I didn't like any of the mine scene.
Okay.
The choreography in the fight outside the mine and stuff, horrible. They're standing out in the middle of the open, not ducking, not hiding, guns all around them. People have time to set up mounts and fire machine guns. They're not hitting any of our heroes. The heroes are just taking them out and kind of maybe ducking. Horrible choreography. That was an abysmal action.
Now remind me, is that where the mud troopers were and all that?
No. When they were getting on Kessel. He was trying to bring up the stuff, and the guys were standing. The whole sequence was just horrible. Horrible choreography. I hated that scene.
Okay. I was actually bothered by the car chase scene. That's not really a car. It's a speeder. It felt too much like Star Trek.
A little bit, because we've seen that.
The Captain Pike scene with Picard. No, oh my gosh. Kirk. Thank you. Wrong Captain.
Done by Chris Pine.
Right. Chris Pine's version, but now we've got it with Han Solo, and I just felt like it was that whole
I think they needed to look more like speeders.
I agree with you.
Too much like
they looked like cars, and it didn't feel right.
The one that he was driving looked like a Jeep.
In particular, yes. Yeah. And it's a shame, because that's the one that took place on the planet where I wanted to see the background with the ships and all the cool stuff going on. And Corellia, I mean, like, it was a cool moment that could have been so much cooler, but because of that moment, you pulled me out slightly. I didn't like all the Easter eggs in The Office. Sorry, I didn't like the crystal skull being in The Office. I didn't like the fertility idol. I didn't, why. They did do it, yes.
And they think that was because of Darth Maul and the
sure, yeah. But I mean, part of me was just like, you didn't need all this stupid stuff in the background. It was too much. It was like way too much trying to shove something in there just for the cool effect of it.
Yeah. Well, it's just Benny's trophy room. That's all it was.
I get it.
That's all.
But you didn't need to have those weird throwbacks. Like the crystal skull could have been left out. I'm sorry. Just too weird.
Well, it goes back to the Indiana Jones movie with R2-D2 and C-3PO.
I get it.
But that was hard to find.
Yeah,
this
right.
was a bit more out in the open.
This was very out in the open.
Again, it's a difference between filmmakers and the whole thing.
You're right. And I guess the other part of it that bothered me throughout the whole movie, and I guess it goes back to what you were talking about, Eric, where Alden Reich just didn't. By the end of the movie, I wanted swag. I wanted Solo to have some sort of swag. It never happened.
I didn't feel it.
Where everybody said you would have this feeling like, Solo's got a reason to have swag. I didn't feel like he had a reason to have swag by the end of the movie. And there were some weird scenes that just caused me to think that, you know what I mean? Like the one where they're on the ship and they're kind of lowering down and he's talking and they're on that weird overlook. It was just kind of a weird scene to have a conversation. I can't even remember what they were writing in, and they were talking about what they were going to do next, and it was just a weird scene, and it just felt forced. There were a lot of forced scenes that didn't feel right. And it's really weird because when you couple that with Lando, who was in scenes I thought were forced, but he made the scene.
Yeah.
So it was like you forced the scene on me, this Sabak scene. Like you knew it was coming, you knew it was going to get forced on us, but somehow Donald Glover made that seem to work and made you want to fit into that.
There's this unexplainable thing. Some people have charisma. Some people have that strength and presence, and to capture the feel of these now mythic characters in our minds, you need people who have that level of presence. And Aaron Reich's a perfectly fine actor, and I picked up on the nuances he was trying to do to play tribute to Harrison Ford and stuff, and his voice and certain mannerisms and things, but I don't feel like he has that presence. He can be a perfectly fine actor, but I don't feel he has that presence that was needed. And his look not matching Harrison Ford went a really long way for pulling me out of the movie.
And part of me is sitting here saying you have all of Hollywood to choose from. This is the best you got.
I'm sorry, Ingruber.
Sorry.
You had him. You had the guy who looked like it. He's never held up a movie before. Neither had Harrison Ford and Mark Hamill and all that. Do it. Take the guy who looks like the role, let him act, give him training if you need to. Heck, you have to give this guy training, apparently, and give him acting lessons. So just... You should have gone with the guy who would have visually... I'm trying to picture Ingruber in those scenes, and I'm like, I would have believed every single one of those scenes more.
Right.
Because he looks so much like a young Harrison Ford.
Yep.
People don't think it matters, and I'm like, it does.
So, Gary, what was one of the things that pulled you out of this movie?
One of the biggest ones was the droid.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there.
L3?
L3. Yeah, it was a weird character. Really weird.
I guess it's making everything too politically correct right now. With everything what's going on in the world right now. With that droid, I know I'm going to get a lot of backlashes on this one, but it was just overly racist to me.
The droid itself. Yeah.
I mean, I like the idea of a droid that's for freeing other droids. I think that's a cool idea. I just don't. It didn't work for me. It didn't work right anyway.
It didn't feel necessary to the moment, I guess, and that's the thing. Like, it's one thing if you can do that inside the storyline and it fits and it works, and you're like, okay, I'm with that.
Right.
But this felt forced. And I think this is why a lot of people are on Kathleen Kennedy's case. Now, I'm not ragging on Kathleen Kennedy for this, but there are people that are. And that is, they're claiming that she seems to be forcing political viewpoints down Star Wars' throat. The idea that women are stronger than Star Wars has ever portrayed them, which I find weird because when you look at Princess Leia and you look at the role that Carrie Fisher played for its time, there had never been a stronger woman in a stronger role than Princess Leia. Can you think of one other than maybe Ripley from Alien? I can't think of one in that time frame that was that strong. I might be wrong in that, but
Ripley was strong in her own aspect, where Princess Leia went from being a princess to a slave,
right,
and then back to being at the top.
Right. And so, you know,
to me, that's a strong character to be able to do that.
And then we get these weird characters now, like this. And I don't think you're necessarily racist for blaming this guy, but what I think what you're trying to say is it doesn't fit into what we're talking about in the story arc of what's going on.
Right. Well,
it doesn't conveniently fit. You know, it felt forced into there. You know, like, if there had been some sort of scene in there where I felt like droids are being exploited in some way, I'd have been like, oh, yeah, we got to do something about that.
Well, that's the whole point of the fight. You saw them, there's the droid fighting going on, and she was saying, you don't have to be a part of this.
Right.
So she's watching two droids kill each other to destroy.
That's where it feels forced, like you hadn't seen it before, you didn't know what was going on before, there's none of this has been discussed before, and in 5 minutes they expect you to be on their side and be like, yep, we gotta end this. Like, it just didn't feel right.
I think if you just show the scene from Jabba's sail barge there when
they're torturing the robots.
Yeah. A droid torturing another droid, all right? Just throw that scene in there and have her, go off on the guy that's
disgusted for the guy, that's torturing him.
Right.
I would have been okay with that. It just, like I said, it seemed a little forced is all. And it just, I know a lot of people are ripping on Kathleen Kennedy and all that, but I see what they're saying, and that is, a lot of the things that they're trying to make commentary on seem forced, like they're shoved in there. When you look at things like Star Trek, that was making some solid commentary about political things. Really wasn't forced in there. It was kind of written into the storyline, nice and neat, tucked in there if you were paying attention. And you didn't have to, they didn't have to shove it down there. It just kind of was there, you know what I mean? I kind of feel like in Star Wars, at times, not all the time, we're suddenly starting to try to shove it in there, and we don't need to, you know what I mean? Like, if it's not there, it doesn't need to be written in.
And the other big problem I had with it was the rebellion at the end of it.
Okay.
It's like, okay, I know the rebellion's out there at this point, but we don't need to have an actual rebel cell
inside of the planet.
Inside this movie. You didn't need it.
Okay.
It should have been just another group of pirates after the same stuff.
Well, like I said, that went into telling. It was basically changing Han Solo's character from A New Hope to making him already having assisted the rebellion before they even got to that point where really when we met him, he wants no part of any rebellion. He wants to live his life. So they're kind of changing who he is.
And everybody wants to see more of this Enfys Nest person, and I don't.
That's the weird thing. I'm in your boat, Gary. I could care less about Enfys Nest. I don't know why there's this clamor for Enfys Nest. I'm sure people will say, well, it's the Boba Fett of the day that we don't know a lot about her background, and I could care less. I don't know.
What I got out of the whole thing is it's Woody Harrelson's daughter.
That's kind of, I can see that.
That's what I got out of it.
I can see that.
It'd be interesting story if that was the case.
That they may flesh out later.
That's the only thing That's the only thing I got out of that whole thing.
Yeah.
And then we need the other stuff for the rebellion and stuff. I didn't buy any of it.
And so many stories lately are about getting fuel cells. You never heard about any fuel issues in any of the prequel, any of the original trilogy.
It doesn't seem to be a problem.
Yeah, or in the prequels. But now all of a sudden it's like ships are running out of fuel to chase in Force Awakens. They need fuel in every single dang episode of Star Wars Rebels, and now they're doing fuel things in Solo. It's like they're really talking a lot about fuel.
All right, so let me ask you this question.
What we need space whalers.
All right.
And then they have all the fuel.
There you go.
Let me ask you this question now. What about the big reveal? We haven't talked about that at all. Darth Maul.
I loved it.
At the end of the movie.
It was awesome.
I loved it.
Loved it.
He looked beat up. He looked older. He had the mechanical legs.
And what I think he's going to go to, Solo's going to go to Tatooine to help Maul locate Kenobi.
Okay.
That's why I think the whole...
Do you think the hope was to lead into another Solo movie where Maul was...
Oh, yeah, that was the plan. I think Maul was supposed to become the big bad of the next movie.
Okay. Or maybe he's leading the Red Sun at that point.
Yeah.
And Han's... do you think that still could potentially happen? I mean...
It's tough right now with the loss of money.
The loss of money, right?
They need... I think they'll feel better if they get another big hit under their belts. They'll be like, okay, it was a one-off.
Yeah.
But if they come across another movie that,
it's like 9 tanks.
It's 9 tanks, Because that's I think our next Star Wars.
It is.
Big film. There's nothing in between.
Nope.
Except the release of the show in the fall.
Right.
If there's no interest in the show, that's going to be a hit. But not as big of a hit as the major movies.
Right.
But if 9 has the same kind of problems, it doesn't show, a fan base turns on it, there's so much disagreement, it doesn't do well for whatever reason.
Right.
If any of that happens, I can see them being like, well, yeah, we got to rethink all this.
What we need to do, or what Disney needs to do, is knock over a couple of oil tankers, because after all, there's fuel in there, and then they can make another movie. Goes back with the fuel cell stuff,
So let me ask you, because here was some of the outcry about having Maul in this movie. Some people complained that, well, hey, Maul's not supposed to be alive, which I was like, duh, did you not watch any of the Clone Wars?
Yeah,
but they made a valid point. If you didn't watch the Clone Wars and you didn't watch Rebels at all,
right,
none of that made sense. And there are a lot of Star Wars fans who didn't.
Right, but to me, if he didn't, and he's alive and has metal legs, that's just like, what? How? What happened? It makes you want to, to me, I want to know.
Right. And that was where I was kind of like, well, I think they were trying to do that. So if you didn't know, now you want to go back and find out, right? So there was that clamor about all that. The other complaint was, well, they're just trying to set it up for a Maul movie. And I was kind of like, so? Part of me was like, good. I don't know. But they had an issue with having a standalone Darth Maul movie.
Well, originally it was going to be I think they said it was maybe going to be a Vader. Yeah. They were toying with a bunch of different people.
They were.
To be the canon.
And Maul, they're still toying with the idea of having a Darth Maul movie. And I think it would be spectacular. But for me, I wouldn't want one like this. I don't want this Maul. It sounds awful, but not this version of Maul. I'd rather see a younger Maul before he met up with Palpatine kind of thing.
I want both.
Oh, yeah?
I want half the movie to be him being trained by Palpatine, doing Palpatine's work.
And then maybe fast forward to this moment.
Have a little flashback to the fight on the Naboo, how he gets his legs.
Yeah. Chopped off or whatever.
Yeah.
How he gets his new robotic legs, yeah.
Right. And touch a little bit through the Clone Wars and Rebels and end it with the fight between Obi-Wan and him.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a great movie. It really would. It would be a great story arc, too. And I think it would really tell the whole story and kind of give you a really cool...
The problem is, what you named there, the only part that's new is the part before Palpatine. Everything else is a retelling of stuff we've seen.
Already seen. Yeah.
So it's like, I don't see him doing that.
But you can still do other things that are... What was he doing before he got with Ezra with the, even after Ezra with the Holocrons?
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of stuff you can tell, but you're also walking a thin line there because you're saying people didn't watch all these other shows.
Right.
So how much can you put those into a major movie and have people understand what's going on if they didn't watch Clone Wars or Rebels?
Well, the same way we're not understanding what's going on with the movies because we ain't reading the books and the comic books and everything.
This is true. It's true. We don't know where Rey came from or where... Yeah, I get it.
Well, have they explained where Rey came from in the books?
No, but in a video game they did.
What was was it Force Awakens? Or the Battlefront 2 they did?
They reveal who Rey's parents are. I still haven't played that, but I know they reveal it in there.
That's what they said. I haven't seen it myself either. I haven't played that either.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to be...
shows how much I cared about playing that part of the game.
The heroine in the Battlefront is the mother.
Is the mother, supposedly, of Rey.
The girl, the TIE fighter girl?
Yeah.
And the father is supposed to be Palpatine's son.
Right. Yeah. And so that's why she has this amazing ability in the Force. So that's
didn't know Palpatine had a son.
Yeah, well, that's a whole other story supposedly happened in a book somewhere along the way. Yeah. I think it's was it the Tarkin book? Or, I don't remember which book that is.
I have no idea.
Well, that's the thing is he can't tell that story in Episode 9 because there's no way most of the audience is going to follow that.
Right. Or know what the heck they're talking about. That's, yeah. So, let's rate Han Solo, since we've talked about it quite a bit, and we all have a general idea. So, again, 0 meaning don't bother, 10 meaning must see. Gary, why don't you go first in this one?
I'll give it a 6.
Okay. All right. Anything that would give it the 6 for you, like negatively, or how about positively?
Positively, but for me, it was the Falcon.
Okay.
The Falcon is a character that needs
kind of stole the show, right?
It needs its own movie.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry?
Beckett was good. Of course, it goes back to the bad guys. But it seems like the bad guys are always fleshed out better than the good guys are.
I'll give you that.
Empress Nest, I care less about her and her little wandering band of bandits, or whatever you want to call them. Kira really didn't do much for me at all.
Okay.
So,
all right.
I saw a great meme where it was Han Solo's released from Carbonite.
Yeah.
He's like, who is it?
Kira?
Yeah, goes, someone who loves you. He's like, Kira?
I saw that one too. All right, I guess I'll go next. I actually would give this one an 8. Yeah, I know, I'm actually scoring it higher than Deadpool 2. I liked it. I actually, for all the stuff that I'm kind of ripping on it, there's a lot of things I liked about this movie. I loved the whole mud trooper scene. There was something.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that much, but I did think that was pretty
really cool.
Well, before you go any further, you said scale of 1 to 10.
0 to 10, yeah.
0 being don't see it, 10 is a must see. Right? I liked it.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I didn't have to see it.
No, I get it.
So
for me, it was a must-see only because I actually liked a lot of the things in there.
I did too, but I
get it. Now, I'm just giving you my opinion here. That's all.
So I'm telling you mine too.
So I actually liked the meeting of Chewie and Han. I was okay with that. I actually thought Donald Glover stole the show. That bothered me a little bit, not enough to like make me want to hate the movie. There were a couple moments that pulled me out. Like I said, the speeder chase scene felt weird, forced. I agree with Gary. The robot felt a little forced. At times I just kind of felt like we didn't need that. I thought Empress Nest, the mystery surrounding him, her, it, and we weren't sure, a little forced here and there, but there were so many good things in this movie that I liked that I was like, yes. And you know what? It felt Star Wars-y. It felt like I was in the Star Wars universe. There was not too many moments where I went, wait, where are we again? Or like, what are we doing? I felt like I was at least in the universe. Where, like I said, there are points, not a lot, small points in Rogue One where I kind of feel like I'm not sure that we're in that Star Wars universe. And maybe that's why I didn't feel the same way about Rogue One that I felt about this movie. I kind of liked it. I actually was surprisingly happy with the way the movie turned out. Eric, what about you?
I'm right between you guys. I'm a 7.
Okay.
I'm like a half point under Deadpool. So overall, I was actually surprised with how well it held together. With all of the conflict it had, and all of the backstory and all the hurdles, it held together pretty well. I thought it was very, very apt direction by Ron Howard. That he had a good grasp of the characters and telling the story and stuff. I liked what's his name, Paul Bettany's character a lot. I thought he was an excellent, menacing villain. I liked the overall. I mean, the story they told never felt super rushed, and that's one of the problems I have with some of these stories sometimes, is that you're getting one thing to another because they're trying to cover everything. My biggest downfall comes with the whole Kessel sequence, from the getting in there, to the choreography of it, to the actual run through the outer space part, and the monster in the space and stuff like that. That sequence to me didn't work great, and I did have trouble with some of the characters, some of the things. They don't live up to what you'd hoped. The rescue of Chewie wasn't as big and as self-sacrificing on Han's part as I'd hoped. Han as a character wasn't a scoundrel. They turned him into a nice guy, so when you meet him at the beginning of New Hope, you're like, oh, I already know he's not a scoundrel. It's like, no, he's supposed to be a scoundrel at that point. He was supposed to find his heart, So you had to tell the story about the guy who didn't. You could have given him a little heart. He saved Chewie, obviously, and stuff, but he didn't have to become helping the rebellion guy that they made him. I like the action sequences. I like the train sequence a lot. I liked him shooting Beckett right in the middle of the conversation. I even like some of the way the action was done, even in the Paul Bettany's throne room there, ducking behind the desks and the knives and everything, and
in close quarters too.
I thought that was pretty good. I didn't hate Alden Ehrenreich's portrayal. I went in expecting to not really enjoy it. I just couldn't see Han Solo. I still didn't come out seeing Han Solo.
Right.
I see someone trying to be Han Solo and not reaching it. I didn't, and physically he never looked the part. He doesn't look like Han Solo. So I had those drawbacks and everything. But as an overall telling of a Star Wars story, pretty well done. Nice tie-ins to all sorts of other media and all sorts of other bits and pieces of the story. I loved Darth Maul being in it, because I'll never get enough of Darth Maul. And to see him finally in an official movie, not just a TV show. He's back in a movie is a big deal for me. And overall, I thought, Donald Glover, he was really good Lando. So, for me, it's a 7. There were definitely parts I didn't like, but overall, I'm more on the positive side, and I'm glad I saw it.
All right, so 2 quick questions to kind of wrap up here. Do you guys think that Ron Howard will get a nod to do another Star Wars movie now? Even though this one fell short?
I think so.
I don't think, here's the funny thing, even though it fell short, even though people are complaining or whatever, I don't think a single person is putting it at Ron Howard's feet. That's what's weird, is he's coming out of it.
He's not coming out of it.
He's coming out of it great. He's like, he's the guy who came in and tried to save the day. He's the guy who pulled it all
Actually, I think a lot of people agree he saved the day.
So, I don't think anyone could have been worse. I don't think anyone's putting blame on him. If they are, I'm surprised, because it doesn't seem like he deserves it. So I could very well see him getting another nod.
I almost wonder if people keep clamoring about Rian Johnson, if maybe Ron gets a trilogy based on this movie, potentially. So here's my last question. Do you think Han Solo, the Solo story, gets a bump in Blu-ray sales? Since a lot of people didn't go to the theater to go see it, will we suddenly see that?
I think there'll be a lot of people who find it that way, and who end up watching it going, oh, that was pretty good. That's a pretty good Star Wars movie.
I think when it comes on Netflix, or if it goes to HBO or whatever,
or even Disney's streaming service,
people pick it up and watch it, and then I go out and get the DVD.
I think it'll be, especially if the DVD comes out with additions.
That's what I'm thinking.
Added scenes, and they do something. I hear there was like 25, 30 minutes cut from this.
Yes.
If they put that back in, like they always hint at and oftentimes don't do, but if they do it this time, I would want to see those scenes. I'd want to see a bit more.
I'd want to see what Disney dropped on the floor.
Tag and Bink got cut out.
Yeah, that's true. Tag and Bink.
So there's definitely some things in there that I'd like to see.
That might have been interesting. Yeah. So
I think this is a movie that gets looked on with a more positive light as time goes on. I really think this will be...
I agree. I think down the road, people will not have this negativity towards it. I think a lot of the negativity you're seeing about this movie has nothing to do with this movie, and it sounds awful, but it has everything to do with The Last Jedi. And it's unfortunate that this movie had to suffer because of the backlash about The Last Jedi.
I think it should have waited till Christmas.
I agree with you. Okay, so those are our thoughts about Deadpool 2 in the first half of this episode, and your thoughts about the Solo movie and the second half of this episode. We'd love to hear what you have to say, so contact us at our email, galaxycast@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook, find us on Twitter, find us on YouTube, and let us know what you think. As we like to always say here in the Star Production Studios, may the Force be with those who listen.
We already touched on the SharePoint.
We did.
Can't go there.
Okay, that's it for now, YouTubers. Till next time.